There is a race that the rest of the world looks at and simply cannot understand. No safety barriers, no gravel traps, no room for error, just narrow public roads, stone walls inches from your shoulder, and motorcycles screaming past at over 200 miles per hour. It has killed more riders than any other event in motorsport history. And yet, every single year, the bravest men and women on two wheels return to ride it. This is the Isle of Man Tourist Trophy, the most dangerous race on Earth, and this is why they keep coming back. To understand the TT, you first have to understand where it happens. The Isle of Man is a small, wind-swept island sitting in the cold Irish Sea, halfway between England and Ireland. It is not a purpose-built racetrack. It is a real place, with real towns, real farms, and real roads that ordinary people drive every day of the year. For 2 weeks each summer, those everyday roads are closed to traffic and transformed into the most fearsome racing circuit ever conceived. They call it the Snaefell Mountain Course. The story begins back in 1907. In the early days of motoring, mainland Britain enforced a strict speed limit that made proper racing impossible. So the organizers looked across the water to the Isle of Man, which made its own laws and was happy to close its roads for sport. The first tourist trophy was run that year, and a legend was born. What started as a gentle test of touring motorcycles slowly evolved, decade after decade, into the ultimate trial of nerve, skill, and raw courage. The course itself is almost beyond belief. It stretches for 37 3/4 miles of ordinary road, winding through villages, over a mountain, and back again. A single lap contains more than 200 corners. Riders flash between stone walls, brush past lampposts, skim hedgerows, and crest blind jumps where the bike leaves the ground completely at over 150 miles an hour. There is no runoff. There is no forgiveness. A mistake that would mean a harmless slide on a modern circuit means something very different here. That is the brutal truth at the heart of the TT. On a normal racetrack, when you crash, you usually slide across tarmac and gravel and walk away. On the mountain course, there is nothing soft to hit. There are trees, walls, houses, and signposts. The margin between glory and catastrophe is measured in inches and split seconds. The riders know this. They study every bump and every camber of those 37 miles until the entire course lives inside their heads, because out there, memory and instinct are the only things keeping them alive. And the cost has been staggering. Since that first race in 1907, more than 260 competitors have lost their lives on the mountain course. It is a number that hangs over the event like a shadow, impossible to ignore. Every rider who lines up on the start line knows the statistics. They have lost friends to this race. They have stood at the funerals. And still, when the flag drops, they twist the throttle and disappear down Bray Hill at terrifying speed into the most demanding 14 minutes a motorcyclist can ever face. So why do they do it? Ask any TT rider, and the answer is almost always the same. This is the purest form of motorcycle racing left on the planet. There are no second chances, no easy laps, no hiding. It demands absolute commitment and total respect. To master the mountain course is to achieve something that only a tiny handful of human beings ever will. For these riders, the danger is not a deterrent. It is the very thing that gives the achievement its meaning. Over more than a century, the TT has created its own pantheon of heroes, names that echo through motorcycling history, men who did not just survive the mountain course, but conquered it, again and again, and became immortal in the process. To win even a single TT is the achievement of a lifetime. To win many is to enter a class of rider that almost defies belief. And among all those legends, 2 names stand above nearly all the rest. The first is Mike Hailwood, a rider so gifted he seemed to bend the laws of physics. By the late 1960s, he had already won everything there was to win. Then he walked away from bikes for over a decade. In 1978, at 38 years old and long retired, Hailwood returned to the Isle of Man for one last ride. Everyone said he was finished, too old, too rusty. Instead, on a course that punishes the smallest mistake, he produced one of the greatest comebacks in the history of all sport and won. The island erupted. It remains one of the most emotional victories the TT has ever seen. The second name is spoken with something close to reverence. Joey Dunlop, a quiet, humble man from Northern Ireland who let his riding do the talking. Joey did not look like a superstar. He looked like a mechanic who had wandered onto the grid. But on the mountain course, he was untouchable. Over his career, he won an astonishing 26 TT races, a record that towers over the sport. He became known simply as the King of the Mountain, beloved not just for his speed, but for his kindness and his refusal to ever lose his ordinary, gentle nature. Joey Dunlop's story, like so many at the TT, did not have a gentle ending. In 2000, while racing in Estonia, the King of the Mountain was killed in a crash. The island, and the entire motorcycling world, was plunged into mourning. Tens of thousands lined the streets for him. Today, a bronze statue of Joey sits on the mountain course he ruled, looking out over the road, and riders still nod to him as they pass. He is the soul of the TT, proof that the race takes its heroes, but never forgets them. The modern era has only made the mountain course faster and more frightening. Riders like John McGuinness, with his own mountain of victories, pushed the machines to speeds the early pioneers could never have dreamed of. Today, the fastest competitors complete a full lap, all 37 miles of public road, at an average speed of over 135 miles per hour. Read that again. An average on roads lined with walls and houses, faster than most cars will ever travel on a motorway. It is a level of human performance that borders on the impossible. Every year, the debate returns. Should a race this dangerous still be allowed to exist? Critics call it indefensible, a relic from a less careful age. But the riders, the island, and the fans answer with one voice. The Isle of Man TT is not a tragedy to be banned. It is a choice freely made by extraordinary people who would rather live one truly fearless fortnight than a lifetime of caution. The mountain course does not care about your fame, your money, or your excuses. It asks one simple question of everyone who dares to ride it. How much do you want it? So the TT endures, as it has for more than 100 years. The roads still close, the walls still wait, and every summer, the bravest riders in the world still gather on a small island in a cold sea to chase glory down the most lethal stretch of tarmac ever raced. It is reckless, it is magnificent, it is utterly, gloriously human, and nothing else in motorsport will ever come close. That is the legend of the Isle of Man TT. Thanks for watching Throttle Tales. If this story gave you chills, twist the throttle on that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next ride.